Hey you guys, it's Watcher Ralph, and this is the Blacklist Weekly. Now this is a new show that I've created basically because of all the feedback and all the comments in the comment section. So to me, I wanted to basically give a voice to all of y'all and continue the conversation, because I've noticed that this show in particular is really gotten everybody very passionate. Everybody has different theories. Now, if you go back, you can look at certain videos that I did where I predicted that Reddington was an imposter, that James Spader wasn't playing the real Reddington. Now, this is based on a lot of evidence that the show has, and to me, that's what really is so passionate from everyone, is the fact that this show gives everyone different theories. Everything has a double meaning. And to me, even though of course it sounds like I'm bragging, and I am, it's also to give you guys an understanding that maybe I have a little bit of credibility on the subject matter. And to me, I definitely had certain theories in mind, even with when I put out that video, which was before obviously the reveal. You guys could check it out, I'll put it in at the end. But the main reason why I wanted to do this is because you guys have all opened my eyes to a whole set of other possibilities that I could have never even fathomed. So to be honest, since you guys basically gave me, basically shed some light on a few things for me, even though I felt very confident to know the imposter, but I'll be honest, I wasn't sure who he was, who James Spader is basically really playing. Now, I had a few ideas, but you guys gave me so many more. So like I said, I really wanted to give you guys a voice. And another reason for this show, I want to talk about the weekly episodes, but ultimately, as you can see, this is pretty late into the game. So we'll really just touch upon them, but more than anything, we'll just focus on the overall theories that we all have in mind. So one of the main things I want to do here is focus on questions, or at least comments, that you guys have made, and at least give you guys my point of view of what I think might be going on. Now, it's an interesting show, like I said, so let's just jump in. Now, I asked my brother to send me a few comments, so I'm not sure which ones really I'll have right here in front of me, but no matter what, I want to keep it fresh in that way. So let's see. Okay, from Sally+4. She says, I love the Blacklist. You're reading of Reddington playing with words with almost a wink wink. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not exactly what, let me see. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is exactly what makes the Reddington character so good. Okay. I'd like to know how much Dembe knows. Now, obviously in a recent episode 7 of season 6, we got to find out that Dembe knows a lot. He basically told Elizabeth that, so we know he knows everything. And even going back to, of course, when he even tells the imposter that Elizabeth's never gonna forgive you for what you did with Catalina. To me, I believe there's a deeper meaning for that, and I've made a video on that subject. But even when it comes to, of course, this show, yes, the beauty about the show, the reason why I think so many people love it, is the fact that, like I said, everything can be taken with a double meaning. Reddington is a character that you got to read in between the lines. And people don't realize how deep that is for almost every twist. You could always see it early on, or at least somewhere. People don't realize how much an ending is baked in the cake. Now, that's something that I said in a video that I've made that you guys could check out about one of the theories I have, where I say one thing. You guys have given me so much great ideas, but one thing I would say, one piece of advice I would give, is that you got to realize, no matter what you believe it is, realize that by now we should have heard the answer. We should have seen who the real Reddington is. that should be already evident. And I say that especially for a show like this where almost everything Reddington says has a double meaning. You can check out my other videos where I break it down, how even in the first episode, he literally said to Elizabeth in their first conversation that everything about him was a lie. I mean, he basically pointed out right in the beginning, was straight up with her, like he said, he's never lied. Which, of course, we'll talk about that in depth in maybe other episodes. But that matters. That's something that everybody got to keep in mind. So I'll just say that. Now let's see about another possible question. Let's see what the comment is. Okay. From Lucky Campos. Twin maybe? Remember the movie Prestige? Okay. I've heard a lot about the comment about the possibility of Reddington being a twin. And to be honest, early on that was my theory. That's what I believed. I mean, I personally believe in the melodrama, and at the end of the day, I still stand to the fact that there will be melodrama in it. We could go with the whole soap opera and novella mentality, which I think is important at the end of the day. It should have just a tap of, a little pinch of melodrama, but it shouldn't go as far as a novella or a soap opera where a twin comes out of nowhere. Now, a lot of people say the twin theory works for the DNA. There's a whole other issue with that, but what I'll touch upon here is that one thing is, why would it be a twin? Why would the twin have to get surgery to change into Reddington? I mean, maybe that's the fake out. Maybe that's the whole Prestige moment in here, that the point is, the twin psyched everybody out. But that sounds great, but at the end of the day, I don't really think that's what's going on, because one other major factor, just like you mentioned, Prestige, again, just like I said before, the answer was already baked in the cake. If you pay attention to Prestige, you could see the guy with the prosthetic nose and the fake mustache who ends up being the other Christian Bale. Spoiler alert, but you guys should know about this movie by now. So that means that they were hinting and showing you the truth the whole time. So when you go back and you rewatch, you could see it all. But to me, that isn't the case here. I mean, if it's a twin, for one thing, that means that he's been planning this even before, meaning Katerina, which at the end they come on now. And more importantly, there hasn't been a hint to him having a twin. Even recently in episode 9 of season 6, in the trial, we get to see the fact that Wrestler basically knows about the whole life of Reddington, the real Reddington, and he would have known about a twin. So that type of twist isn't gonna happen in this show. The parameters of what the show has created, with always giving double meanings and always being there, you're not gonna come out with an answer that just comes out of right field. Well, actually, this side, right field, and so meaning like I that's interesting. Trust me, I thought about it in the beginning, but I kind of let go of that pretty early on after, I would say, season 1, because I realized it wasn't gonna go that route. But like I said, I do believe there is some melodrama involved in it, but we'll see where it goes. No. The next one is a comment. Let's see. Okay. Davey says, I was convinced after the episode that he's on the beach in the dreams with Katerina and they don't know each other. So Katerina became Raymond the Red Reddington. Okay. I kind of understand where you're going here. I assume what you're saying is you believe in the Katerina theory. Now that's another big thing I would say, because of this channel right here, because of the feedback and the comments that I've received from you all, I definitely have noticed that intriguing theory at hand. Like, I do believe now, to be honest, in the Katerina theory. Like, it took me a while. I'll be honest, I didn't fathom it, but once I saw all of the possibilities that you guys presented, I decided to do a deep dive. And I did present at least a part of my theory, which you guys will see soon. I'm going to bring it out in full, and then I'm going to release it in parts because, to be honest, I really went deep with it to see if that was the case. And as of right now, I feel like that is the most... That's the theory that holds the most water, at least right now. But you know what I'm saying? We'll see. We'll jump into further discussions of what else is possible. But it seems like that's the pieces that fit the most. I mean, a perfect example of something like that is the fact that... Hold on, let me see. Sorry, guys. Yeah. The whole thing is the fact that when you come up with a theory, you have to pay attention. There's a psychology behind all of this. What they present, it's not even what they say, which could have double meanings, but it's what's shown and what isn't shown, what is said and what is also left out. And once you notice that things have maybe more than one interpretation of what's going on, then you should honestly grasp on to the second interpretation, because these are people that wrote this. They basically, orchestrated everything you're seeing. So everything should have a purpose, should go full circle. And once you realize that, if you ever hear something being said that could be taken a different way, realize the writers did put a lot of effort for that to come across. So, perfect example, I mean, this doesn't have to do with Blacklist, but it's for you to understand where I'm coming from when I try to dissect a story. I'm gonna use the most obvious example, which is the movie Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense, I'm gonna bring it up because by now all of us, anybody out there should know the twist. It was one of the biggest twists, so I feel like I have a common ground. Everybody should be with me on this, in this conversation. In The Sixth Sense, to be honest, this is my gift. I don't see dead people. I understand movies. I see basically the strings that are being pulled, and to a degree I don't get to immerse myself and enjoy it as much as most people. But in The Sixth Sense, this is where I want you to understand. I understood the twist right in the beginning, and the reason why that was the case was because we see Bruce Willis get shot, and then it fades to black and we move on. Now, you have to understand that, like I said, everything is psychology. And in the case of, I've mentioned it with Katerina, death matters. We need a sense of closure. So with a whole other thing, Katerina, I do believe, is alive because we didn't get to see her die. We've heard about her death, but we never got to see it. We never got to see that closure. And in that sense, Sixth Sense had this element where it faded to black, and then a few minutes later we get to see Bruce Willis supposedly a year later, and we got the answer. Did he survive the gunshot wounds? Which felt anticlimactic. It felt empty because it literally took 2 minutes to answer the question, which made me personally go, why leave that question to linger if you're going to answer it right away? To me, that left that thing in the back of my mind, the psychology of trying to be like, what was the point of that? And that's the way I see the movie. So once I thought of that, and I said, what about the parameters of this show, of this movie at hand? Well, guess what? The kid sees dead people. So just because we got to see him alive 2 minutes later doesn't really mean that we got the answer to the question of what happened a year prior. You understand where I'm going with this? The movie was about supernatural elements. So you got to realize, okay, you got to grasp your mind around that. So it meant that question that still was lingering wasn't answered. We didn't really get to see what happened a year ago. And from that point on, I used that as an anchor for the rest of the movie to acknowledge little details, like when Bruce Willis, it cuts to the middle of supposedly a dinner with his wife, and they want you to think that they're fighting, and she's ignoring him. But again, at this point, I already thought, what if he's dead? What if she can't see him? And it was the anchor that I held on to from the beginning of the movie that almost kept going, okay, this could be what's going on. Same thing when he complains about why does she keep locking his basement door? Why doesn't she just leave it open for him? Again, by itself, it's not a big deal. But once you put it into the context of what if he's not there and that's why she keeps doing it, it opens your mind to the possibility of something else. And that's why I figured out that twist. There were so many clues that, again, by themselves, they don't really matter. But when you put them together, you see this full picture. And I'm saying all this, yes, we're talking about Blacklist here, not Sixth Sense. But again, it's for you guys to understand why certain theories have to hold a lot of weight, because a lot of people go, things are circumstantial. They're little details that really don't represent anything. But no, again, by themselves, they're nothing. But once you let them fall into place, you see something starting to form. So, okay. That one was pretty long. Let's see where we could keep going and how many more we could try to knock out before my mouth wastes all the time, right? All right. Next question. All right, keeping that in mind. Well, there's a sponge bath. I read an interview with the show creator a few years ago, where he laughed off the suggestion of the sex change theory, and just how would say in quotes, and just how would that work, end quotes. Of course, he could have been trying to redirect attention from that idea, meaning doing a misdirection. Yeah, I understand what you mean. And I'm glad that you pointed that out at the end, because I've heard about this interview and supposedly the cast, debunking this theory. It's important, just like you said, misdirection. For one thing, all of these interviews that I've heard of about when they brought up the Katarina thing, which again, to be honest, at this point, I kind of do believe in this one. But putting that aside, at the time of these interviews, we didn't even know, or at least the show hadn't shown that Reddington was an imposter. At that point, the creator, the writers, the cast, they wanted everybody to think that Reddington is Reddington. So I understand people taking the perception of what he means by, well, how could that work? But what about just from the point of view of, well, he wants everybody to think that Reddington is actually Reddington. He's not an imposter. So if Reddington is Reddington, how would that work? You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't make sense from that point of view. But secondly, just like you said, misdirection. Throwing that aside, honestly, the thing we got to laugh off is the concept that writers, actors, the creators are going to give away the twist, especially if it's a movie or a show that it's hanging on this basic twist. The whole point of them doing these interviews are to basically sell the project. And they have no control, but they have no control of the questions that are being said. So if they're presented with the right question and they have to decide between, being honest or being dishonest, they're going to be dishonest every time, because they put so much effort to write, to again mess with you psychologically, to make you understand why it makes sense. And they're going to give it away in a moment's notice because the interviewer asked the right question? No, they're going to lie. I mean, the whole point is that they want to sell this. And as much as you are using this example of this interview against that theory, now imagine if the creator actually admitted that theory in particular. Everyone would be using that soundbite as proof to the fact. And basically, the creator would have thrown his show down the toilet, basically. Because there's nothing else to watch. The twist is already given. And, it's like, okay, he would have basically done the opposite of his purpose of trying to sell us to keep watching. So again, I understand that point of view of believing people are going to be honest, but in the entertainment industry, and especially something like that, they're not. Excuse me. And I can bring up clear examples thinking about it, like Star Trek Into Darkness. Now, if you guys ever saw any interviews before the movie came out, Benedict Cumberbatch and the director, J.J. Abrams, were asked multiple times if the character that Benedict Cumberbatch, who had a different name, a different alias in the movie in the beginning, they were asked multiple times if that was Khan from the old series, from the old movies. And they said no, they denied it. And of course I understand, like I said, if you watch that movie, they're trying to build that tension, build upon it so it's a twist. And when it comes out of nowhere, you're like, oh, this is incredible. That's literally why they gave him a different alias. So they didn't want to give this away. But unfortunately, that backfired. Khan! Then, even more recently, when it comes to not even the movie, just the title, you look at Avengers Endgame. Now, I don't know if you guys know, there was this whole thing where the Russo brothers, the directors behind it, they had basically put out like, oh, we want to do this little thing where everybody could send in possible names of the next Avengers movie. This was before it was already known to be Endgame. So they asked people to send in possible names. Basically, you know, trying to create a buzz. And guess what? They said that no one got it right. But then and the name comes out and ends up being Endgame. And I'll just say, amongst all of the possibilities that people threw out at them, guess what? Endgame was in that mixture. One excuse is that the person put Endgame as two separate words, so that means that they didn't have it right. No. I mean, clearly they got it right. It was Endgame. Someone had guessed it, and the Russo brothers lied. Again, you go, why? It's a title. Because this title mattered. It's Endgame. I mean, it's very definite. There's no denying that people are going to feel a certain way and have a certain expectation when you hear the end game is coming. So, again, it's about the psychology. They didn't feel like the people were ready, or they didn't want the people to feel this way yet. They wanted to wait until the movie got closer. Makes sense. But again, it's clear examples of why people did this. Another one that I could say, if I have any young viewers and it comes to games, there was a game that came out called Arkham Knight. I got the Funko Pop and everything. In that one, the creators were asked over and over, oh, is this Jason Todd, the Red Hood? And they were like, no, this is an original character. No, this is an original take. And it turned out to be the case. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but by now you guys should have played the game. But my point is, this has happened plenty of times. There's plenty of scenarios where the creators lie. They do not want to give away the whole answer to their product. It's the secret ingredients to the KFC sauce. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to give it away, because then what's the point of people coming to watch it, eat it, experience it, whatever you want to use as the example. Okay, so let's jump into something else if we have a little bit of time. Okay, here we go. I'll try to get one more in, because time is pretty light actually thinking about it. Okay. Wasn't there a DNA test? Now, I'll just say that because of you guys helped me out, because when I had read the situation right about it being Reddington, in that he was an imposter, I was wrong in the video about one detail, and it was about the DNA test. So I'm glad, maybe that's why someone's asking. I originally thought that it had to be that the imposter was Liz's father, because the DNA test was a scenario where it came in from Liz's sample of the imposter's blood. But then we ended up finding out, or at least it was in the show, that it was proven that it was Harold's blood testing that he made based on a sample of years ago during the whole sub situation, during the whole Reddington, betraying the American government. And that to me was too complicated. It didn't make sense to me until recently in episode 9, season 6, in the trial. The trial is rich with so many details, and that you guys could check out another video on breaking that down about Katarina clues. But here I'll just say that now it made sense why that was the blood or the DNA that they used. Because the trial, that meant that they always knew the trial was coming up. Because the trial is us hearing and really getting a taste for who the real Raymond Reddington was. The fact that, just like Wrestler said, was that he was an actual honorable great CIA agent. So we're getting to see his life through those stories, but then we got to see that DNA that connects back to Liz. So in truth, what I would say now is that I do believe that Reddington, the real Reddington, is her father. But of course, we've seen that he's dead, which I've heard a couple people talking about Reddington is still Reddington. No. One of the evidence that we really have to grasp at hand that's physical is the fact that we have the real Reddington's bones. So I'm sorry, you gotta throw that one out. But I would say, in this case, it was connecting it back for us to know that Reddington was her father. He is dead. But to be honest, I feel like this has to go back to that whole family melodrama. So that's why I do believe in the Katerina theory, because I do believe the melodrama has to be apparent. This love that the imposter has to be connected through the experience of being one of her parents. Not an uncle, not a cousin. It wouldn't feel the same. Yes, it could have the melodrama that it's family, but at this point I could honestly say even a paternal thing about the imposter's love. People could say maternal, but I would say there's a maternal thing. Yes, there's a maternal thing. And I mean, no matter what, I feel like it's apparent. That's evident to me. So there's a lot that can be said. I want to hear you guys' comments. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know, because I want this conversation to keep flowing. I'll focus on so many more questions. I believe I got maybe 5 out there, which we'll try to keep that pace. Maybe a little bit less if we focus on an episode, but this week didn't have one. But for now, like I said, leave those comments. And you guys could share, like, and subscribe. You can click over here. Plus, you could check out that Katerina theory right over here. Click over here. And you can check out some more of my dearest theories by clicking down here. Till we meet again. Goodbye. See you guys.